All right, y'all. So 5.4 deals with complex rational expressions. And really, the only thing we're looking at in this section is what we call the difference quotient. And I guess the reason we show you all this is for the people that are taking business math. You'll see this formula in business math. So the difference quotient is given by f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So we're going to work this little formula here. So the steps on this. First step, we're going to give you f of x. So what you got to do is find f of x plus h. So we got to find f of x plus h. So like I said, we'll find f of x plus h. They're giving us f of x, and it's always h on the bottom. So once we find f of x plus h, we're going to substitute into the formula. So substitute into the formula. All right, so I start out with parentheses for my f of x plus h. I put my f of x stuff in parentheses. So that my third step, I'm going to remove parentheses. By distributing the subtraction. All right, once I've got my parentheses removed, on the top, I'm going to combine any like terms on top. And when we do this combined like terms, you're going to notice a lot of stuff always cancels out on these problems. Okay. If it don't have an H in it, at this point, it's going to cancel out. All right, once we combine like terms on top, we simplify the resulting fraction by removing factors of H. So by removing factors of H. And when we're working this, you'll see these steps. It's not too bad. So y'all, we're going to start out. These will say construct and simplify. The difference quotient. Okay, so for my number one, we're given f of x equals 7x minus 3. So this is the f of x. They're giving me the f of x. I got to find the f of x plus h. So first of all, I'm going to find f of x plus h. So we'll take f of x, and wherever they got an x, we're going to replace the x with our x plus h. So this will give me 7 times x plus h minus 3. So it still looks like f of x, except we had to change that x, okay? So now to simplify this, we would remove parentheses by distributing that 7. So that'll give me a 7x plus 7 times h is 7h minus 3. Now notice, I cannot combine any like terms on that. So f of x will now equal this. So now I'm going to plug into the formula. So let's plug into the formula. So f of x plus h minus f of x will all be over h. So we just found the f of x plus h part. That's going to be 7x plus 7h minus 3. They gave us the f of x part, which was 7x minus 3. And then at this point, it's always h on the bottom. All right, so we substitute into the formula. Now we're going to remove parentheses by distributing the subtraction. So remember, anything that follows subtraction, everything in the parentheses is affected by that subtraction. So when we drop parentheses, the first term will stay the same, 7x plus 7h minus 3. Then you got a negative times a positive. That's going to make that a negative 7x. Negative times a negative will make that a positive 3 all over h. So notice, at this point, everything that does not have a h in it is going to cancel on top. See the 7x and the negative 7x? Those cancel out. You got a negative 3, that'll cancel with the positive 3. So what's left? So let me bring that up here. On top is a 7h over the h on the bottom. So now simplify this by removing factors of h. So 1h on top, 1h on bottom, those h's will cancel, so that my final answer is 7. Okay, so this difference quotient is sort of like a way to find the slope, okay? All right, so let me see. I'm looking for my chat. Any questions on that? You know, like I said, if you got business math, they're going to get a lot deeper into this in our class for college algebra. We just want you to be able to substitute the values and work it, okay? All righty, so let's look at my next one. So same thing, we're going to construct and simplify the difference quotient. All right, so for this one, this would be like number 2. I got f of x equals 6x plus 10. So put a star by that one. You will see this one on the review and on the test. So they do have one just like this one on the test. So first thing we got to do is find f of x plus h. So replace that x with an x plus h. So we get 6 times x plus h plus 10. All right, you're going to simplify that by distributing the 6 through the parentheses. So 6x plus 6h, and then bring down your positive 10. So now we know what our f of x plus h is. Now we plug it into our formula. And I'll write the formula again. So we now know everything because they gave me f of x, and then the h is always on the bottom. So I'm going to plug into the formula, f of x minus, f of x plus h minus my f of x all over h. F of x plus h was 6x plus 6h plus 10. F of x was 6x plus 10. So y'all, if you notice, the only thing you really got to figure out before you plug it into the formula is the f of x plus h. All right, so once again, we distribute. So the first parenthesis stays the same. 6x plus 6h plus 10. That's going to give me a negative 6x. And then a negative 10. All over h. So remember, treat that like a negative 1, and all you're doing is multiplying it by the stuff in the second parentheses. All right, at this point, we're going to combine like terms. But really, in this stuff, when you're combining like terms, you're just canceling stuff. See the 6x and the negative 6x, they're going to cancel. The positive 10, negative 10, they're going to cancel. So on this one, I end up with a 6h over h, which means, once again, y'all, these h's cancel, and I'm left with positive 6. So when you got straight lines like this, you usually get a single number for that slope, okay? All right, y'all, any questions on those two? All righty, so let's knock out number 3 on these. So same thing, we're going to construct and simplify the difference quotient. Now this time I'm given f of x equals x squared plus 3. So the first thing we got to do, we got to find f of x plus h. So replace that x with x plus h. That's going to give me an x plus h squared plus 3. So I'm going to do a little side work on this one. And on my side work, I'm going to figure out what is x plus h squared equal. All right, y'all. So x plus h squared will be x plus h times x plus h. All right, so we got x times x will be x squared. X times h will be hx. I'm just putting them in alphabetical order. This h times x will give me another hx. And then h times h will give me h squared. Notice you got like terms in the middle. So bring down the x squared. 1hx plus 1hx gives us 2hx. and then bring down the h squared. So now what I'm going to do is replace x plus h squared with this right here. So I get a x squared plus 2hx plus h squared, and then bring down your plus 3. All right, y'all, look at this. No like terms. So all of this is now my f of x plus h. So we got f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. All right, so let's put that in for f of x plus h. That'll be x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 3. F of x they gave us, that's x squared plus 3. And then it's always over h. So y'all, here we go. We're going to distribute or subtraction. So this gives me a x squared plus 2hx plus h squared plus 3 minus x squared minus 3 all over h. And y'all, you see it again, right? If it doesn't have an h in it, it's canceling. The x squared and the negative x squared are going to cancel. The 3 and the negative 3 are going to cancel. So this time I got a 2hx plus the h squared all over my h. Well, here's the trick when you simplify this. All terms on top must be divided by the h on bottom. So, I'll eliminate one in real quick. So I got to divide this 2hx by the h, then I got to divide the h squared by the h. Well, when you divide 2hx by h, those h's are going to cancel. So all that's left will be the 2x. Here you got an h squared divided by h. So if you got 2 h's divided by 1 h, that's going to leave 1 h. And y'all, 2x plus h, cannot do anything else to that. So that would be our final answer. So if you notice, the gist of this problem is figuring out the f of x plus h. And y'all save this right here. Save that, because anytime I get an x plus h squared, it's always going to equal that. Okay, so we can use that later for our problems. All right, question on that. All right, also, problem number 4. We're still using f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. All right, so this time my f of x is going to be negative 9x squared plus 6x plus 7. Put a star by this one. This is the second one on today that will be on test 2. But y'all notice, I got 2 x's on this one. So when I find my f of x plus h, I got to replace both of these x's with my x plus h. So that'll give me -9 times x plus h squared plus 6 times x plus h plus my 7. So I took the whole f of x and replaced both of these x's with an x plus h. So the first thing I got to do is figure out what x plus h squared is, and guess what? We foiled that a while ago. So in place of the x plus h squared, I'm going to go back and figure out what we did a while ago. I'm replacing it with that. So I got -9 times x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. And I'm just going to bring everything else down. And the reason I didn't distribute to 6, because I got to distribute on this line anyway. So all I did on that was replace the x plus h squared with what we came up with a while ago. Now I'll distribute the -9 through the first parentheses, the 6 through the second parentheses, then I'll bring down my 7. So I get a -9x squared minus 18hx minus 9h squared. Working on the second parentheses, I get a positive 6x, a positive 6h, and then at the end is my positive 7. Now, I'll tell you the sad part about this. None of these are like terms, so I can't make that no shorter. So now I'm going to plug it into my formula. F of x plus h minus f of x will all be divided by h. So I'm going to put in this for f of x plus h, -9x squared minus 18hx minus 9h squared plus 6x plus 6h plus 7. F of x they gave us -9x squared plus 6x plus 7. All righty, now time to distribute that subtraction. So drop parentheses on the first one, -9x squared minus 18hx minus 9h squared plus 6x plus 6h plus 7. Double negative is going to make that a positive 9x squared. Negative times a positive makes that a -6x. Negative times a positive makes that a -7. All of that over h. Remember now I'm going to look on the top and try to combine like terms. And once again, if it does not have an h in it, it's canceling. -9x squared cancels with a positive 9x squared. Let's say I got a 6x, it's going to cancel with a -6x. And then this positive 7 and that -7. So let's see what's left. I got a 18hx, -9h squared, and a 6h. So let me bring those down. negative 18hx minus 9h squared plus 6h all over h. So remember a while ago, I said all terms on top have to be divided by that h. So the negative 18hx, if you divide by h, those h's cancel. So what's left is a negative 18x minus 9h squared. So if you take the h squared and divide by h, that's just going to leave a negative 9h. And then at the end, there's a positive. The 6h divided by h, those h's cancel, and I'm left with a positive 6. So the trick on this one is to divide all three of these by that h. And then y'all at this point don't like terms. So final answer. So here's the thing, remember, that is a test question and it's on the review and on the test. The x plus h squared, keep that in your notes, because remember, that's going to equal that every time, okay? So keep that in your notes for sure. All right, question on that. All righty, so let me show you the last problem in that section. There were just these 5 problems. So we're still going to do f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. But y'all, this time they gave me f of x equals 2x to the third. Whoops, my bad. Let me put that back. So first we're going to find f of x plus h. That's going to equal 2 times x plus h to the third. Oh, now we got this for being squared, but guess what? We're going to have to figure that out for a cube now. So x plus h to the third. That's going to be x plus h times x plus h times x plus h. Now, I know what 2 of these will equal. So let me bring down that first x plus h. Now, we done figured out what 2 of these equal. It equals the x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. So what we got to do is multiply this one by the x plus h. So that's going to give us like 6 things running across here. X times x squared is an x to the third. X times 2hx is a positive 2h x squared. So basically I'm adding the x to everybody. X times h squared is a positive h squared x. Now, y'all, the one thing I'm doing is I'm keeping them in alphabetical order. That way you can notice the like terms easier. All right, distribute to h. H times x squared is a h x squared. H times 2hx is a positive 2h squared x. And then the h times h squared is a positive h to the third. Now, we'll say this one does have like terms. The hx squared, two of them, will add to this hx squared. The h squared x will add to these two h squared x's. So let's bring down our h to the x to the third. 2hx squared plus 1hx squared gives me 3hx squared. This h squared x adds to the 2h squared x's. So that gives me 3h squared x. And then at the end, I bring down my h to the third. So y'all, save that one, because when y'all get an x plus h third, it'll always equal this. All right, so I got 2 times all of this, x to the third, plus 3hx squared, plus 3h squared x, plus h to the third. So when I replace the x plus h to the third with this, I now have to distribute my 2 through these parentheses. So the 2 has to multiply by all 4 terms. So 2 times x to the third is 2x to the third. 2 times 3hx squared gives me 6hx squared. 2 times 3h squared x gives me 6h squared x. And then finally, 2 times h to the third gives me 2h to the third. We have no like terms in that, so this now becomes f of x plus h. So now we're going to plug into our formula. So f of x plus h was 2x to the third plus 6hx squared plus 6h squared x plus 2h to the third. F of x was just 2x to the third. And y'all guess what? I want to distribute my subtraction. So write everything out. 2x to the third plus 6hx squared plus 6h squared x plus 2h to the third. That's now going to make that a negative 2x to the third all over h. And y'all remember at this point, if it doesn't have an h, it's canceling out. And unfortunately, the only things that don't have an h are the 2x third, negative 2x to the third. Everything else has the h, and it doesn't cancel. So write what's left. 6hx squared plus 6h squared x plus 2h to the third. All of that divided by h. And remember, everybody on top has to divide by the h. So the 6hx squared, the 1h cancels out. You're left with a 6x squared. In the middle, the 6h squared, one of the h's on top cancels with the h on the bottom. So that leaves me 1h on the top. And then the 2h to the third on the h, one of the h's cancels from the h to the third, leaving 2 h's. So that'll be 2h squared. And I'll tell you a trick what we're really doing. If you treat the missing exponents like a 1, 1 minus 1 is 0 h's, 2 minus 1 leaves 1 h, 3 minus 1 leaves 2 h's. Okay. Now guess what? Cannot add like terms. So final answer. So if I was y'all, I would definitely keep this written down in my notes so that when you find the x plus h to the third, you can replace it with all of that. All right, y'all, question on that. Oh, I missed the x. I see you. Yeah. So y'all remember that on the second term, it definitely is a hx because I didn't see my x there. So bring down that x, okay? So good job. I'll probably get to yakking too fast and not paying attention to my stuff. So good job on that, y'all. All righty. So what I'm going to do, let me see if my math lab's still pulled up. So we're going to start our review for test 2. Now, test 2 is not due this Sunday. I got it due, I think it's the 23rd. But we'll start our review today. And then we got to do 8.1 on Wednesday. So y'all, I'm going to ask y'all most of these questions because I know these answers. So y'all should be seeing my question number 1. Is that function odd, even, or neither? What y'all think? So let me refresh y'all. If it's an even function, it's symmetric to the y-axis. If it's an odd function, it was symmetric to the origin. Another way to check, if it's an even function, it touches the x-axis an even number of times. If it's an odd function, it touches the x-axis an odd number of times. So let me make this picture bigger so y'all can look at that. So y'all, what's y'all's guess? Even, odd, or neither? So it's definitely even. There you go. I think my internet sort of delayed on me. So it is definitely even. So then we move to the next. All right. So I gave y'all an attachment one time that had those 7 basic graphs on it. So you want to use that for these problems that are coming up. So since you see an exponent of 2 on that, the basic graph, when we start with the graph of x, f of x equals x squared. So you have to put in the x squared on that. Now, shift it blank 2 units. So since you're adding 2 inside the parentheses, it's either going to go left or right. So remember, when you add, it moves me to the left. When you subtract inside the parentheses, it moves me to the right. So we're adding 2, so that's going to move you to the left 2 units. And then at the end, you're adding 4. So what's the adding 4 going to do to me at the end? All right, y'all, so let's see. There you go. It's going to definitely move me up. So that's not the bad part. A lot of people get this part right. The trick on this is getting this graph. So I'm going to remind you, click the enlarge graph. Since that's got an exponent of 2, you're going to be doing the x squared tool. Now, just click on that, and you can click anywhere on this graph. It will put that parabola in the center. Now, we said we went left 2 units. Left and right are your horizontal shift. So you went left 2, so you're going to pull that over to -2. Now, we went up 4. That's your vertical shift. So since we went up 4, we're going to move that to a +4 on the vertical. All right, it moved my graph left. Looks like 2 units, and it moved me up 4 units. So then you'll save that, check your answer, and move on. All right, let's see. I'll let y'all figure this one out. F of x equals x plus 4. And it tells you you're going to start with g of x equals square root of x. So what's that 4 doing to me? Is it going to move me down, left, right, or up? Now remember, since it's under that radical, you would treat it like it was in parentheses. So yeah, we're definitely going to go left here. So we're going to go left. And then you got to actually put in the 4 units in that little box, okay? So A, B, C, or D look like it went left. So let's see. It looks like A went up. Yeah, I'm gonna go with D too, because B went down, looks like C went right. So the only one that went left looks like D. Because remember, the basic graphs all start in the center. So you would put your D on that one, hit next. All right, so g of x equals negative x minus 7 squared plus 4. Y'all are telling you they're starting with the x squared graph. So first of all, it's either going to go right or left. And we're getting that from that -7 in that parentheses. Remember, inside the parentheses does my right and left. So is it going to go right 4, right 7, left 7, left 4? Oh yeah, boy, the internet is lagging on my end. So right 7 is definitely right. So you hit right 7. Reflected across the y-axis or x-axis? The x. Y'all, that's the only answer you can put on that. We never have reflected anything across the y in this section. And then shift in, I guess, up or down. They're looking at that 4. That's a +4. So up 4, good job. And y'all, that one we didn't even have to graph. So we just hit next and move on. All right, so this one has find a 0. So I'll probably write this one down. F of s equals s squared plus 9s plus 20. All righty, so I'm going to find the zeros. Now remember, to find zeros, I gave y'all the quadratic formula. So we're going to go to our paper and work that quadratic formula real quick. Now, I'll probably do it by hand, but I gave y'all programs. If you want to, use that program. So remember, my quadratic formula is x equals -b plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So I know A would be 1 since I have no number there. B would be 9. C would be 20. So I'm just going to plug this into my formula and see what we get. Now remember, since that's exponent of 2, I gotta have 2 answers, okay? So here we go. That's going to be a negative. B, which is 9. So that's going to make that positive 9 into a negative 9 in the formula. Plus or minus 9 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, C, which is 20, all over 2 times A, which is 1. So y'all, at this point, most of my work's going to be figuring out under this radical. So bring down to negative 9, plus or minus square root. 9 squared is 81. Minus, all this gets multiplied on that side. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 20 is 80. All over the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. So then we can actually figure out 81 minus 80 under that radical. So that's going to give me a square root. 81 minus 80 is 1. All of that over 2. All right, so we can now take the square root of 1, and that's actually a perfect square. So the square root of 1 is 1. So that'll give us negative 9 plus or minus 1 over 2. So now to get my 2 answers, my first answer and my second answer. And to get the 2 answers, we use the plus or minus. So the first one, I'm going to do negative 9 plus 1 divided by 2. I'll figure that out. For my second answer, I'll do negative 9 minus 1 divided by 2. All right, y'all, so let's see the first one. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8 divided by 2, which will give us a negative 4. The second one, negative 9 minus 1, is a negative 10 divided by 2, which gives us a negative 5. So for Math Lab, we would go in and just put in our answers, which were what? Negative 4, comma, negative 5. Push them in, move to the next one. All right, y'all, same thing here. So let me see. I'm going to write that problem down real quick. So they're giving us f of x equals 3x squared minus an x plus 6. There won't zeros again, so once again, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. Now, we'll tell y'all this on the quadratic formula. One will come out nice like the problem I just did. One of these will probably have a radical answer left. So here we go. We're going to do negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But notice this time a is 3, b is a negative 1, c is a positive 6. All right, so negative times b, which is negative 1, plus or minus b squared will be negative 1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, c, which is 6, all over 2 times A, which is 3. Right, negative 1 is going to make that a positive 1, plus or minus. Negative 1 squared becomes a positive 1. The whole right side is being multiplied, so that's going to be negative. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 6 is 72. So that's going to be a negative 72 all over 2 times 3, which is 6. All right, can't do nothing on the outside. All I can do is figure out what 1 minus 72 is. 1 minus 72 gives you a negative 71 all over 6. All righty, y'all, here's the thing. 71 does not simplify because remember those perfect squares I gave y'all, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. None of those are factors of 71, but we do at least have to bring out that negative. And remember, a square root of negative 71 is like a square root of negative 1 times 71. So what can I replace that square root of negative 1 with? So perfect, it's going to be the I. So that means that this will give me an I square root of 71. I square root of 71 all over 6. Now this one is the one where Math Lab was picky. We have to, since this has got an imaginary part and a real part, we had to split it apart. So to split it apart, you put the 1 over 6, the plus or minus, and then the second fraction will be the I square root of 71 all over 6. So this is that A plus BI form that they're talking about when you get to this one. So split that apart. And since it's a radical, it don't simplify no further. So use the plus or minus to represent the two answers. Okay. All right, so let me go back to that and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you notice, at the end it said express complex numbers in terms of I. That's what they wanted us to do, is sort of split it into two fractions. So if I was going to write that in, I would do my first fraction, which was 1 over 6. Then I'd arrow right, use that plus or minus, hit the fraction bar again, put in my I, and then I had what, square root of 71. Then I would arrow down to the bottom, or click to the bottom, I guess, and put in the other 6. So for this one answer, you had to split them apart, okay? All right, y'all, then we're moving to the next one. So this one, we're basically giving you everything. Now remember, the x-intercepts are equal to the solutions with those x values. Now, when you put in the x-intercepts, you got to put them in parentheses. So the x-intercepts will have the x value followed by 0. So if I look on the left, let's zoom that up. So y'all, that left one is what? That's sitting at -3, it looks like. So my first intercept would be -3. Let me get back in here. So -3, comma, 0, close those parentheses, and then put a comma. And we want to get the next x-intercept, which will be on the right side. So that dot looks like that point is what? 5, 0. So that would be a 5, comma 0, close parentheses. So the x-intercepts definitely have to look like an ordered pair. So all the solutions are those x values to those x-intercepts. So that'd be what? X equals -3, comma 5. All right, y'all. So just remember your solutions. So there's no work on this one, actually. You just had to, we're just wanting you to learn that these x values are the solutions and they are equal to those x-intercepts, okay? Uh-oh, here's the fun one. So let me see what we got on this one, number 8. A wire is stretched from the ground to the top of an antenna tower. The wire is 25 feet long. The height of the tower is 5 greater than the distance D. And they're saying D is the distance from the tower's base to the end of the wire. So they want me to find the distance D and the height of the tower. So let's go. I always draw pictures on this one. So I know I got my antenna tower sitting over here. Now I got a wire stretched from the top of my tower to the ground. They told me that this wire was 25 feet. Now, my tower was 5 feet greater than the distance D. Now, distance D was from the base of the tower to the wire. So if that's D, what would I represent this side with? So perfect, D plus 5. So this side would be D plus 5. So y'all, guess what? We got a right triangle. So we can solve for D by using that Pythagorean theorem, which was A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, the only stipulation on this, the longest side, that hypotenuse, that side has to be your C. The other two sides don't matter. A and B could be either one of those. But C definitely has to be that hypotenuse, okay? So you'll come plug in. I'm just going to let D be A. D plus 5 squared will be my B. That's going to equal C squared, which is 25 squared. All right, so I guess I need to do a little side work on this one. Because I know I bring down the D squared. With the D plus 5 squared, we got a FOIL. So that'll be D plus 5 times D plus 5. So D times D will give you a D squared. D times 5 is 5D. 5 times D is 5D again. 5 times 5 is 25. So y'all, let's add the like terms in the middle. So that'll give us a D squared plus 10D plus 25. So we'll replace that with this. It's a D squared plus 10D plus 25. Now on the right side, we got to figure out what is 25 squared. So y'all push that on the calculator for me. Ooh, my internet is lagging up here. So y'all should be doing what, 25 times 25? Hopefully y'all are getting 625 on that. All righty. So here's what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do, combine those like terms. So I get 2d squared plus 10d plus 25 equals 625. So it's looking quadratic because I got this d squared term. But remember, to use the quadratic formula, I need a 0 on this side. So everything's got to be on the left side of the equals. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 625 from both sides. So bringing that down, I get a 2d squared plus 10d minus 600 is going to equal 0. Now, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all a trick. I could do the quad formula at this point, but all these numbers will divide by 2. So what I'm going to do is divide everybody by 2. Because remember, when I do to one side, I do to both sides. So 2 divided by 2 leaves a d squared plus 10 divided by 2 is 5d minus 600 divided by 2 is 300. That's still going to equal 0. Now, on the one that y'all get with the wire, y'all should be able to divide y'all's by 2 like mine. All righty, so here I go. A is 1, B is 5, C is a negative 300. I'm now going to put that into my quad formula. So x equals negative b, which is 5, plus or minus square root 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times a negative 300 all over 2 times 1. Now, it would have worked with 600 and 2 and 10, but Lord, those would have been big numbers. So y'all, this radical looks like it's going to be pretty big. So I get negative 5 plus or minus 5 squared is 25. All this gets multiplied, so I got 2 negatives. So y'all, it's going to make that side positive. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 300 is 1200. All over 2. So here we go. 25 plus 1200 gives me 1225 all over 2. So y'all, here's the question. I know this is going to bring down a negative 5 plus or minus. What is the square root of 1225? I'm going to ask my calculator that. So, oh, that come out perfect then, didn't it? So that's a 35 all over 2. So now what we got to do, I'm going to move that down, is figure out the 2 answers. So the first answer and the second answer. First answer I'm going to add, so I'm going to do negative 5 plus 35 over 2. That's going to give me 30 over 2, which will give me 15. The second answer will be negative 5 minus 35 over 2, which will give me negative 40 over 2, which will give me negative 20. So y'all, here's the question. What does D equal? And it's got to be 15, right? It's got to be 15 because the distance cannot be negative. So you're going to get one positive answer and one negative. You can only keep that positive answer. So D is definitely 15, which makes my tower how far? Or how tall is my tower? $20, perfect, because D was 15, so 15 plus 5 makes 20. So I know my tower is 20. Okay, so that's the trick on that one. So let's see, we said the tower was, the D was 15. And the height of the tower was 20. So y'all, the quadratic formula is getting used quite a bit on this test, if you notice. All right, same thing on here, but this one is a ladder. So let's see. For this one, the foot of an extension ladder is 9 feet from the wall. The height of the ladder reaches on the wall, and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. Now notice, this one only wants to know, how long is the ladder? So let's go draw our pictures for this one. All right, so let me get this fixed back. All right, y'all, so let's draw our wall. Here's our wall. And we got a ladder leaning up against that wall. Now we know the bottom of this ladder was 9 feet from the wall. So this bottom distance was 9 feet. But then they say, hey, the height of the ladder is on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So that means if this height is X, the length of the ladder is X plus 1. So that's what they mean by consecutive integers, like 2 to 3. You add 1 from 2 to get to 3. 3, you would add 1 to get to 4. So whatever X is, you add 1 to get to the next integer. But y'all look what we got again. We got a right triangle, which means we can use A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now this one, you'll notice when you work this one, it'll start out looking quadratic, but then the X squared terms cancel, so that all you got to do is solve it. So let's see. The only stipulation I have, the hypotenuse has to be C. So I'll make 9 be A and X be my B. So I got 9 squared plus B, which is X squared, equals C, which is X plus 1 squared. So I would do side work and figure out what is X plus 1 squared. So that'll be X plus 1 times X plus 1. Y'all, let's see, that'll give us X squared. X times 1 is the X. 1 times X is an X. 1 times 1 is a 1. So adding like terms, I get X squared plus 2X plus 1. So that's what I'm going to put on the right side. So I know 9 squared is 81 plus my X squared equals, we just figured that out, X squared plus 2X plus 1. So see, it looks quadratic because you got these x squared terms. But remember, to solve a quadratic, you need everything on one side equal to 0. So if I start trying to move the x squareds over, well, since I got an x squared on both sides, look what happens. These cancel, those cancel. So all the x squareds cancel, and all we're left with is 81 equals 2x plus 1. So now all we're doing is solving for that x. So to solve it, we would subtract 1. 80 equals 2x. So by removing them x squared terms, we do not have to use the quadratic formula no more. All right, y'all. And then my last step, divide by 2. So 40 equals my x. So my question is, how long is that ladder? So I got 41 feet, perfect. Because remember, this x is the height on the wall, but to get that ladder, you had to add 40 plus 1, which gave you 41. So don't be tricked and think you got to be done when you get that x. On this one, they don't care what the height on the wall is. They want you to tell them how much is that ladder. Okay. So y'all would put in your 41 and move on. All right, let's see. What's this? Question 10. I'll probably do a few more and then we'll call it a day. So they're giving me everything here though. The vertex, they give you that point over here in the parentheses. All right, y'all. So the vertex, remember, has to be an ordered pair, but they're giving it to you. What is that? 3, 2. So that's your vertex. So come over here and put your parentheses. 3, 2, close parentheses. The axis of symmetry. The trick is it's got to say x equals. So y'all remember which number would be my axis of symmetry? So definitely going to be x equals 3. Good job. Well, y'all, let me get back in the box. So put it in as x equals 3. So good job, y'all. And then what's the minimum or maximum value of my function? So definitely it's a minimum of 2. Good job. So that one. So they're giving you the vertex on that one. Here's where it starts changing. Because now we got to use our formula to find the vertex. So let me get my function here. All right, so we'll work this by hand and then we will put all these answers in. All righty, so remember my vertex formula is negative b over 2a, f of negative b over 2a. So a is 2, b is 14, c is 24. So I figure out negative b over 2a to get my x value. Then I put that value back into the function to get my y. So I'm going to get the x first. Negative b over 2a will equal negative 14 over 2 times 2. Oh, y'all, this is going to be sad. I get a negative 14 over 4. So I'm getting a fraction on this one. So I can divide both these by 2, and I get a negative 7 halves. So I know the x-coordinate is a negative 7 halves. I would now go get my y-coordinate by finding f of a negative 7 halves. So we got 2 times negative 7 halves squared plus 14 times negative 7 halves plus 24. So I took this function and put in the negative 7 halves for those two x's. All right, first step, all I'm going to do is that exponent. So I'm going to bring down that 2. When you square a fraction, 7 times 7 on top, 2 times 2 on bottom, and any number you square will become positive. So negative 7 times negative 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, I'm bringing everything else down. Now I'm going to multiply. So if you want to multiply, put ones under these 2 and 14. Multiply straight across. 2 times 49 is 98. 1 times 4 is 4. This is going to be negative. 14 times 7 is 98. 1 times 2 is 2. And then that's going to equal plus my 24. So at this point, I put a 1 under the 24 because in order to add and subtract, I needed the least common denominator. So between a 4, 2, and 1, your least common denominator is the 4. You got to turn both these other numbers into 4s to add this. So 98 over 4 has the common denominator. Now, the next one, to turn a 2 into 4, you multiply by 2, which means we're going to multiply top by 2. So y'all, let's see, what's that going to give me? 98 times 2. So y'all getting what, a negative 196? 2 times 2 is 4. Now, you got a 1 on this one. Turn it into a 4. You multiply by 4. So we multiply the top by 4. And that's going to be a positive. 24 times 4 is 96. 1 times 4 gives me a 4. So this fractioning one's a little trickier. So at this moment, it'll be something over 4. So 98 minus 196 is a negative 98. Negative 98 plus 96 is going to give me a negative 2 over 4. That will reduce to a negative 1/2. So my y value is a negative 1/2. So y'all, here's the thing. Since we know the vertex, that now pretty much gives us all the answers we need. So the vertex, you would come in and put negative 7 halves, comma, negative 1/2. The axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals the x value, which is a negative 7 halves. Let me ask y'all this. Does this parabola have a maximum or minimum? So there's definitely a minimum, so you would click B. And then we know that value is what? The negative 1/2. So then you got to graph this. So remember, this is the parabola, so I use the curvy tool, and it's got 2 points. So I got to put my vertex first and then find me another point. So my vertex is -7/2. Now this is broke into halves. So I would just go left 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then -1/2. So I would go down 1. There's my vertex. Now remember, to get my other point, I can use my y equals, put in the 2x squared plus 14x plus 24 on your calculator and go to your table. So my graph only goes out 5, so I need to get one of them points that's within 5. So at -2, I get a 4. So my next point would be -2 and go up to 4. So there's -2, 4. So y'all just put that in your y equals and find a second point, okay? Once you do that, you save that and move on. Oh, so let me ask you a few of these true and false, and then I'll cut it for today. And then what we'll do, we'll finish this on Wednesday. So, true or false? The graph of h of x equals x minus 1 squared can be obtained by translating the graph of h of x equals x squared left 1 unit. So that is false. So let's see. Right, because if you subtract, it actually moves it to the right. So that would be false. Good job. So you would move to the next one. So let me see what's next. Now let me see what's after this. So it looks like a couple vertex coming up. So the rocket's a vertex. And then we do domain. All righty, so y'all, I'm trying to think. Let's start at 13. Let's start at 13 on Wednesday. And then we'll knock out 8.1 also, okay? Yeah, because the second half of this ain't too bad. So we'll knock out, we'll probably do our 8.1 first and then finish our review Wednesday, okay? So let's see. Any questions for me today? All right, y'all. So knock out your 5.4, and then if you want to start sort of reviewing, you can, and then we can, if you have issues, we can fix that Wednesday when we do our review, okay? Now remember, this test, the review says it's due the 16th. The test is due the 23rd, but you can still work the review all the way up to your test if you want to, okay? So the only thing that's really set in stone is that test. All right, y'all, so let me stop our recording.